Dog. So hey, you know how like we bought our company from our erstwhile,
Yeah.
that whole thing.
Yeah.
Do you guys have like an update? Like what's going on? What's going on with you guys?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean everything went through. I was able to negotiate. One was the delayed buyout. The other he took it for a good price. So I'm happy with it. It all worked out. I obviously think there's some resentment on our lead dev side, but because I could see him like subtweeting vocally outward and
Oh no.
going after people. He's a little upset, but I mean, you always knew it was kind of a reactionary, like just kind of emotional decision that he made.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know.
But it's tough. I
I
mean,
don't know.
my biggest thing, for you guys is that um I'm just excited because like I always think you've been the only person that I've talked to about
Yeah.
Immersys or whatever. I know you see it, right? Like I know you get where this stuff is headed, and are going to be moving things towards that in a a way that makes business sense, a way that makes sense for the community, and those two things have to be in line, right? Like it has to make sense on both of those vectors, or it's just going to die. Like it doesn't matter how anyone feels about it. Like if those two things aren't functional, then it's just going to peter out, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm excited that you actually have the reins and the capacity to move things forward in a super fun way. And we also, I don't know, like 5 or 10x the price I have.
Yep. Yeah. I
Sorry,
mean,
I just like randomly drop that in there. I've had enough coffee this morning.
pretty much. Yeah. I mean, it feels good to kind of have, this. I mean, I just know that with me kind of and what I envision it for and I know that I'm going to listen to other people. I know what people want. Like, I don't know. I just feel like I feel much more comfortable knowing that we can make something that's a little bit more sustainable with without the clashing of two different visions at the head of
Right.
Immersys. And that's really what it was. It was kind of just a clashing of ideas. But yeah, no, I think I'm excited. We already see it like kind of influencing how the community is interacting already. We started with a little incubator program. So a big
Cool.
thing that like for me coming in here is like the incentivization of participation. So it's this idea of like anything and everything should be incentivized, whether you're a community that's building inside of Immersys and you want to host events. We need to be coming up with some type of fund, even though it might be Fate in the beginning. Fate might not have the most use case to begin with, but just start
Yep.
using what we have, which is our Fate token, our NFTs, our world, and incentivizing the participation from idea creation to problem solving to third-party development of applications that improve the interaction with the Immersys ecosystem. We were talking with Charm City coach here, who does our Ellie Blob League, but just even like creating incentive programs to encourage community building. So whether that's like initially, we're helping fund the reward pools that they give out to get people in, or we're giving them access to our Discord events announcements, right? Where like they can come in and set the announcements for the Discord channel so you can come in and participate in those events. And then even like a creator incubator type program where we incentivize creators to come in and reward them for creations of either assets that can be used in the world or can kind of benefit the ecosystem as well. So kind of creating these little programs to kind of start building up and incentivizing the participation, because that's really my biggest goal is and that's really what I think Immersys should be good at doing is I think we're kind of an interface that allows you to integrate or consume that Web3.
Yep.
That's kind of below it. We're obviously a centralized application, and the fact that you kind of have to download it onto your computer, but what it does is it interacts really well with the decentralized web. So and
And
that's
that's
where the
always been
value.
the thing,
Yeah.
right? Like the sort of ideological purist about wanting everything on chain. I've always disagreed with that. Like that's and coming from Bitcoin and wanting to be anti-fragile, and so the government can never get you. Like all of that is frankly like if they wanted to, they can.
Yeah.
Right. You know, it making it harder is fun, but we're almost kind of past that, I feel like, right? I mean, that, you know, as long as you're, you know, playing as much by the rules as humanly possible, we're in this moment that, you know, Airbnb, Uber, the, you know, cannabis industry, where, you know, the federal government is like, yeah, I mean, like, technically it's
Pay tax.
this, that, or whatever, and then Wyoming is like, fuck you, DAOs can do whatever they
Yeah.
want.
Yeah.
Like,
True.
okay, right? So we're in this awesome situation where I think, I mean, obviously I'm biased because we're doing the same thing, but you use the tools that are around to make the best possible experience to then plug in, you know, Web3 where it makes sense, right?
Where it
And
makes sense.
NFTs are like, just, you can't take the blockchain out of NFTs, and no one ever should, right? Like that's you know, the use case, the reason why, you know, they have that value is because of the trustless nature of the blockchain, right?
Yeah.
And so that's great. So you throw it up on a centralized Minecraft server and rock and roll, right? And make a game out of it that can be organized and played. So I think this is the thing that, you know, decentralized situations are going to have, is that, you know, you set the boundary conditions up as properly as you possibly can, and they're going to get botted to within an inch of fucking making sense. All of them,
Yep.
right? Like this is just, you know, what we're seeing everywhere, right? NFT Worlds is going to go through the same thing, right? You release something where people can earn, you know, people are just going to start spinning up servers to earn their token. That's it. There's not going to be people.
100%.
There's not going to be, you know, there, and they'll probably have big numbers, but those numbers are not people. They're just
Yeah.
fucking bots, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you see it even just on the Wax blockchain already. I mean, I feel like the majority of the top games all, you know, kind of outlived what they were, right? They're just this, they're not that interesting, right? They're all kind of clickers. They all follow the same, you know, common, like, you know, path as far as what their economy looks like, and
Yep.
how they utilize, you know, a token and their NFTs, and it kind of just spirals out of control each time. So I do think that that kind of layer above it is what keeps it, you know, both sustainable, but also like allows it to not just fizzle out up and down.
Yeah.
You know, Minecraft will always be an enjoyable game, right? Like when it's all said and done, like I could still pull up the game, play it for a bunch of hours, and still feel like I enjoyed my time. Where, you know, I don't think, you know, 5 years down the line I'm gonna be like, yeah, you remember Alien Worlds? That game was just so good, right?
But I
Like
mean,
that.
like the best part about Alien Worlds, I just
Yeah,
want to, like, again, like we all know. I mean, they have said they're fighting bots,
yeah,
and I know
yeah,
a lot of them, and I love you guys, and like,
yeah,
okay, okay, sure. A lot of other games kind of aren't, right?
yeah,
So those numbers, like when you get to talk about your numbers, the numbers look really, really good. Cool.
yeah.
Now, the point behind Alien Worlds has always been the DAOs
Yes.
and education around the DAOs. And that functionality, like it's coming out, I think, you know, relatively soon. We know that it will for sure come out. I talk to Max Infield about this all the time, about how, like, you know, it, you know, basically grew up around all the education they were doing around DAOs from Crown and yada yada yada, right? Like in 2 years, the whole point of Alien Worlds as this, you know, erstwhile clicker game, but then turns out to be educating people about how DAOs work, will have been realized, right?
Yeah.
What
True.
other games have that?
True.
Right? Like, you know,
True.
I'm into expansion, it's fun, but like, yeah, you know, they might do something, they might not. Who knows, right? Green Rabbit's kind of putting some, you know, actual gamification in. There's a few others that are doing that, but most aren't, right? Like most are, you know, Farmers World variants that, like, oh look, this looks like a game, and they never really do anything with it. The token's going to take off and have that, you know, it's a moment in the sun, and then it'll fade away. Like they all go through it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that the projects that are getting into these things, and I think it comes kind of to us to maybe figure this out as well, right? How do we take what is clearly an amazing incentive for people to get in that, like this is why this worked in the first place, and create infrastructure so that they can come into our platforms and build actual meaningful engagement, you know, into what they're doing, but through Immersys or through Uplift, right? So
Yeah.
take what worked about what they were doing and what clearly everyone's tired of now, and then, you know, your guys' team and our team can build, you know, infrastructure that hopefully kind of sets them up so that they can be doing some things that'll last, right? This, you kind of have a little bit more stickiness.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's, I mean, that's an interesting way to look at it too, right? I mean, I think we could be that level where, you know, even like the DAO has an influence on it in a way,
Hmm.
for Alien Worlds in another virtual world. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be them that makes the virtual world, right? I mean, we could be the layer above it that they influence with their decisions, with their pretty much trustless system, with the clicking and mining and DAO, stuff that they have set up. But yeah, DAOs. I'd love to learn a little bit more about DAOs. I mean, I went the route, obviously I was saying like with the incubator and just kind of just idea formation, proposals in that way where, it's ideas and proposals, but they're not necessarily voted on for implementation. They're just
Yeah.
more there for, just making sure that we're getting a sense of what the community wants, while kind of, sort of getting a vote, right? Like there's sort of some type of vote that allows us to kind of retain the rights to make what we need to make, but then also, be able to address the issues that are clearly issues. But yeah, no, I mean, I when I was going that example, I just meant like I just feel like the clicker game is very much it's I don't know. I just feel like it's gonna
people are over it. Like
yeah,
that's
people are
like
gonna get over
let's
it.
be
I'm
super
over
clear about
it.
this. People
Yeah.
are wicked over it.
Yeah.
And you can do a bunch of fun things about it or whatever, but the sentiment is waning on it, and I don't think that's going to shift back, right?
Even the collecting side of things, I'm kind of over too. Like the collection side, I'm losing that one as well. I mean, I know that I can buy a Funko Pop and flip it, but like that's even kind of draining on me a little bit as well. Like I'm starting to just really miss entertainment, right? Like
Yeah.
there's a sense of it where I've been in wax for now 2 years, and I just feel like, am I actually having fun doing participating in the games that are on there, and am I really having fun like buying a picture and flipping it for, even if it's for $100 or something like that? I do feel like that part of it has gotten old. Now I want to make sure that, like, if I'm spending time in there, I do want to make sure that I'm having fun, or I'm being entertained, or that my time, doesn't feel like it's exactly.
I think I mean, the game has always been attention over time, no matter what you're doing, right?
Yep.
And building. I think when we talk about building communities, especially during the pandemic, this just came into stark relief instantaneously, right?
Yeah.
The ability to
100%.
create community so that we could feel connected to other people, like that's, as hyper intelligent monkeys, basically the whole thing, right? We really need to feel that connection on that level. And so any projects that are creating really awesome community around that, whether you're selling a JPEG or a game or whatever, you're really filling a valuable need and desire for people, right? And then the games for entertainment, all that kind of stuff is extremely real as well. And that collection, it's going to be interesting, because I think you're right. Like the fire, we all have, wait a minute, like I can buy this JPEG and then somebody else will buy this JPEG for did I just make $100? Did that just happen? Like that's messed up, right?
Yeah,
it always has been. And I think like we've been in it, kind of doing it solid for 18 months or however long it's been. So it's gonna like ebb. Like I'm 1,000 miles an hour on building a community of communities, right? Like doing some really, really big things. But my hope is, and my suspicion is, that like the number of people that got into clicker games versus the number of people on Earth is like an exceedingly idiotically small number, right? Same thing for NFT collectors, frankly. Like the people that got into that really enjoyed it versus the number of people that will be into that is an exceedingly small number, right? So like as our attention ebbs and flows in those things, as long as we're doing the work of onboarding, there's going to be a constant flow of people where this is the most fascinating thing they've ever seen, right?
True.
And they're going to get into a clicker game and a year later be like, oh man, TC was right. Why did I not listen to the granddaddy of NFTs, TC, and just freaking do the thing, right? But yeah, anyway, so like
that's a cool way to look at it too, right? Like maybe we're just 2 years ahead of like the like the normal process of somebody coming into the space, right? Like the new person's going to see the flip of an NFT. That's what kind of brings them in, because they're just interested in figuring out why it's happening. But like, then they'll look for something a little bit deeper. And then that's where they'll start gravitating to things like us.
Yep. Yeah, I think so. Well, and this is the thing, like every single project that is building is gonna, I think it needs a presence, in the metaverse, and should be in both, frankly. Like having embassies all over the place. And we were talking about this too before we started talking with Nick from Gnome City, and you guys, about doing like a big huge collab right before shit got, what's the word, interesting for us over at
to say
UpLifters,
the least. Yeah.
Oh boy. But yeah, I'd love to revisit that, right? I mean, like obviously we're doing the miners now. We're doing a bunch of blends. For anybody that doesn't know, you can get a postcard and a stamp right now from Uplift and turn it into a miner. But you can also get a postcard and some hemp from Immersys, a bunch of hemp from Immersys,
Bunch of hemp.
a bunch, and turn that into a miner. Gnome City has one. I just saw the NFT actually for the Gnome City one yesterday, and Dennis just fucking knocked it out of the park. It looks fucking really rad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like getting to that point where we can do some multi-project events that just kind of rock things up is going to be fun.
I mean, it's time to start burning a bunch of NFTs for collaboration across a bunch of collections. I mean, I was saying that the endless NFT or the endless FT thing it's a cool mechanic. I mean, I remember it was February that we introduced Fate Burn, which was like our way of doing it, which was essentially we had all these NFTs out there, all the hemp, all the stone, everything in their thing. We were realizing like, all right, this is costing a lot of RAM, but this is how we can reward players. This is our play to earn. But the thing is when you mint, a bunch of NFTs, they don't tend to retain value, and they're not really a great, thing to actually exchange amongst people because they're all unique and they're tough to trade. But what's not hard to trade is the token. The token, you go to Alcor, you exchange it, and then you can go back and buy what you actually want with it a lot easier. So we had this mechanic where you would just take your resources, your NFTs that you gained inside the game, and just because that's how our mechanic is, that it was the easiest way to do our play to earn. You would take them, burn them, get Fate, which was our token, and then you'd be able to spend, Fate for crafting and a bunch of other things. So,
Nefty's launching that, so any project can do that soon.
Really?
Yep.
Which they should, right?
100%. It's like you're doing a blend, but instead of getting an NFT, you're getting token. But then you can also do a blend with token to get token, right? So they're just like they're doing all the fucking things. I fucking love those guys.
I love that token for token. That's cool too,
right? I mean, like having say a hemp NFT and some Fate token, and get a little bit more Fate token. Just like you can
burn it for a governance token. Yeah,
bunch of stuff. So yeah, no, I think and they're doing it right. Like you're talking about all the building the infrastructure so that games or NFT collections can do more interesting things. Like they've been on that shit like white on rice since the beginning.
Yeah, I mean they're killing it. But yeah, I mean that mechanic of just being able to burn the non-fungible for the fungible token is just a killer mechanic, and I feel like more collections will just continue
100%
to kind of utilize it because it just makes too much sense.
Yep. Yeah, especially when we start letting people crystallize different in-game assets and bring them over to the blockchain, like that's gonna be messed up. Especially considering like TC went out the second we had shops out. TC and his team, his mobsters. That's a terrible name. They're not really mobsters, but they basically went out to all the shops they could find and bought everything. Right. And then they made a big, huge superstore. So they kind of, have a centralized location where you can go and buy stuff for bulk and whatever. Right. Makes sense.
Yep.
And so the second that people can crystallize stuff, I mean, we're probably going to have like fairly high caps, right? You're not going to be able to crystallize like one wood. That's dumb. Yep. One dirt, also super dumb. But like, 10,000, 100,000, whatever it's going to be like sort of a good cap to get it out there. And then how long before they turn that into a token or whatever. So sometimes I think that we might end up backing into a farmer's world arc, but not trying, right? Like we're going to have all sorts of interesting things to do with all this stuff, but this is like actual stuff that people actually want to buy to build things that, behind us or whatever that are really, really amazing. And it's a survival world. So like, you can't just magic yourself stuff. You're going to have to go and find it. Or buy it or whatever. So I think that's going to be interesting. And that, half the projects that are coming into the new Ethereum maps on DGen 1, which is one of the maps, survival, right? Yep. So the people that are going to be building there are going to be needing to go to the rest of the economy and buy stuff because things need to get built really, really quickly. So that's going to be interesting too.
Yeah, I think that large economy, base like thing that you can create both in Uplift and Immersys is important. I think that's the value that you get to create for them is I've always liked the MMO, RPG style economies and the fact that they're just massive. They're massive. The amount of value that gets transacted daily is like probably like trillions of dollars worth of value. Like but because it's, in the game it's worth nothing, but in the real world, it actually has a value, but just being exchanged between individuals is just trillions of dollars basically. And it would be, I think that's where the value kind of comes in with these projects. If you can kind of create an ecosystem where people want to interact and create the supply and demand mechanic. We do the supply and demand through like our proof of ownership blueprints.
Okay.
Obviously you do it through like, the fact that it's a survival map, there's limited resources, and the fact that people need to compete over it, and that creates that demand that you need. So yeah, I mean, you have to have some type of economy system built into it, and it can't be just relying on like, click a button every 30 minutes and then repair your tools and all that, right? Like that's not what people want. They want to kind of progress through a game. Like if they can progress through a game a little bit faster and they could just buy the resources to kind of get to the point where they want to get to, they'll most likely do that. Like that's what I see. Like that's another big thing that we're planning on changing is initially the way that you could play Immersys is you could come in and pick hemp. That's the only thing you could do free to play. But we want to go way harder into free to play. Like we want the onboarding route to have a completely free to play path forward where you can come in, download the game, and because of Fate Burn, we can then now sell the tools or the starter tools for different activities inside the world for Fate. So really what you're doing is allowing a progression path where, people come in, they start leveling stats, they earn our token, and then with their token, they can earn or buy a tool, and then they can progress just like everybody else, but we'll still keep the option for somebody to buy a tool in Wax if they just want to get to the, first step. But why limit them? There's not really a reason to kind of limit them from that easier onboarding experience where it's literally free to play, as free to play as we can get. We almost want to go further, and because Wax obviously now has the 5 Wax wallet fee, we just wanted you to be able to play Immersys with just like an email and a password setup. You download the game, set up an email password. You maybe do some basic things in the game, and then at some point it asks you to link a wallet if you want to start earning NFTs, right? Just like
right, where you can have like, because it's just a database on your end, right? Like you have NFTs associated with your wallet. The second you get a Wax account, it just like
exactly
can pound it. I've seen a few different products doing it like that.
Just to make it easier, because right now the only people that can offer a free wallet is Wax themselves, which is it's a little odd, but I mean, just to kind of keep it as easy as possible for people to get in, and just making a much more free to play onboarding ramp for them is another focus, because it doesn't take much to shift to it, right? It's just get our token involved, because once our tokens evolve, we can allow people to come in and mine and gather with their hands, essentially get our token and then unlock the first tool. And it's kind of just like a shop in an MMO RPG where you unlock your first one. But then Fate Burn is also like the shop mechanic for an NPC in a video game where you might be collecting bottle caps and like Fallout or something, and you go trade your bottle caps in, or I guess the bottle caps are the currency, but you find these items around the world and you go trade them in. That's what the Fate Burn mechanic is, right? It's just it's like an NPC shop that's given a daily allowance to buy back items that go into the ecosystem. So when you burn it, the shop's essentially buying that item back and giving you the token in return, and then you're spending the token in the game to buy things basically.
Yeah, having that arc. We talk about this a lot. TC said, I've always said, if you want the masses to come in, it has to be real simple to get in. And yeah, I mean that, having that free to play arc, or just reducing the friction, right? I mean, people, needing Minecraft. We've got a little, secret backroom R&D group that is looking at figuring out how to use any platform, not just Java, right? Like as an example of stuff that we've sort of got going on in the background. Just because I mean that 20% of Minecraft players, I'm making that up, I'm not sure what the number is, but a certain percentage are using Java, and the rest are on the tablet or Xbox or whatever, and we need to make it so that it sort of works for that. And then deeper in the R&D bucket, having it set up so that you can experience gallery worlds from a browser, like just have it booted up to something like Unreal 5 or something, and have that experience be able to be seen anywhere. It's just it's super important for us to keep grinding on that and just keep chipping away at the friction until people can get into these platforms and really connect with how amazing these builds are, or like connect with the places in a contextual and sort of kind of community driven way, where like you're not just there by yourself, right? You're there with people. Like that's what ends up, having people come back over and over and over again, right?
Yeah. No, I love the idea. Like, so the one thing I do like about like Decentraland and the sandbox is the fact that you could take a coordinates and just go and visit the plot, right? I think that's cool. I would love to get it to that point for Immersys, like any of the player-owned properties or things like that. Get it so that like there's a way to access it. Maybe it's an isolated instance, so like it can be handled on the web browser or something like that, or I don't know what it is, but allows you to go and actually visit the coordinates of certain locations and kind of experience it without having to download our application. Like, I think there should be kind of both of it. The application is there for what we need just from like a processing standpoint. I mean, like it's a big application, and the things people need to have on their computer for it to work efficiently need to kind of be downloaded beforehand for it to not lag, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But having a lighter version that's accessible on a web browser that anybody can visit, and they get the same benefits as they would if they were inside the game is important as well.
Right.
That probably comes later, but yeah. I mean, it's
one thing at a time.
yeah. I mean, right now we got to be looking for new developers and all that good stuff. So we're in a rebuild pattern right now where I feel like we're figuring out the direction. A lot of right now, we're kind of just documenting. We're kind of like reproducing, how we used to build things and how we used to patch the game and stuff like that. Like, there's not a ton of documentation for us to reference or go off of at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of that's we're taking baby steps. I mean, we made our first build, so now we just want to try and get like through to the build process, all the way up to like the actual patching and releasing of it next. And we're getting there. We're trucking along. We have a lot of people helping us, which is awesome. I think relying on the community for certain things to help us, get this going again is awesome. It's been enjoyable. I'm having fun again, right? Like I think that's what it is.
Yeah, 100%. Like that. Like we kind of had our first full week last week, right?
Yeah.
And even Tuttle kind of took me aside at one point. She's like, because she was here like after we did the first Genesis sale, right? So like,
yeah,
when Jimmy and I were doing like a fucking half dozen demos a day, and introducing ourselves to all the projects there, and connecting them, and having a blast doing that, and just really digging in to what, like, I didn't know this was like the funnest part for me, but it totally fucking is, right? Like, just the watching what the light in people's eyes go on when we're showing people what we can do. Because I always start, like, every time we do the demo, it feels kitschy, but I don't give a shit. I do it anyway. So I tell, the uplift is amazing. We got all these projects connected to it. Everyone's having a blast. It's so much fun. And then I show them the 2D map, and just the 2D map, and they're like, oh. Like, because pixels, like, fuck you, punks, like that. Like, we can do whatever we want. It's super simple, right? And they're like, oh, this is super interesting. Like, all that's like just in your world. Like, dude, this is one map out of 8. Like, settle down. Like, this is, we got a lot of stuff going on. And then you flip the 3D on, and they're like, wait a minute, what? And that's really amazing. We're still on the maps. Like, this is just the maps. This is super boring. And then you dive into the actual the actual world, and they just fucking lose their minds, right? And like that, just watching that over and over and over again, it's fun.
It's a fun experience when you're getting in there and you're in a call with somebody and you're showing it, and they're just like, is this a metaverse? And they're like, yeah, this is a metaverse, right? And then you start showing them like what you're actually doing. You're like everything's like starting to click, and you could see their mind just like they're just asking questions where they're just kind of like just first off probably amazed, second off like just kind of like everything's starting to click. Because I do think the power of seeing it in like a 3D world, versus a website is substantial. Like, just being able to understand, an NFT, there's a difference between, looking at your NFT. I've been saying it. I mean, there's a difference between looking at your NFT on a 2D website. Like, that's the same thing as any image, right, on the internet. But when you can actually place it out into the world, and then you realize that, oh no, now this NFT is on your character, and like you can actually visually see the ownership of, this asset, then they're just like, whoa, okay, I can see why people like this. I can see why there's value being built here. I can see why a brand would want to have their like a store or a property or a plot to kind of have a presence in it, right? Like it like their eyes open up Like, and it is a cool conversation to have when you get to pull out the demo. I like people that do it right away, right? Like sometimes I'm like having the conversation with them about like what it is, and they're just like, yeah, that's cool, and they're just like, can you show it to me? I'm like, yes, thank God you asked for that, because this is when you're really gonna like it. When we show it off, and then once we show it off, you're right, that is the best feeling about it.
Right. Well, and then that too, and like the being able to reduce the amount of time between having an amazing idea on the team and action, yeah, has always been a thing, right? And in our previous incarnation, doing anything was kind of like pulling teeth through the intestines of a rhinoceros and out its asshole. It was not efficient. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And now, and again, like once the DAO's out and things are not going to be as fast, and that's on purpose, right? Because we want to make sure that we have the ability to take almost everything that we're doing out to the DAO and leverage that. And really, the bonus for that is that it's not just us anymore, right? We're going to be crowdsourcing ideas, because our community has amazing ideas all the time, and then crowdsourcing the ability to actually get those things done. Like, and on balance, we believe that's going to be dramatically faster and more intense than if it was just our team, right? So it kind of works out. But yeah, I mean, like even the new miners, right? Like, hey, let's go do some community miners. We're just able to do it, right? Like just the amount that we got accomplished in a week is mental. It's mental, and that it harkens back to the beginning, which is when we were unencumbered and on fire and able to go out and do all the things we need to do. So yeah, I'm excited that you guys are in the same situation now. We're still getting our feet under us and getting things moving. And as a community of communities, we're going to be able to to do even more.
Yeah, I think you guys are in a little bit better of a spot than I am, but it's
yeah,
I don't know. Yeah,
I'm excited, and I really genuinely am really, really excited. But the
Yeah.
challenge in front of us right now, like, it's not a foregone conclusion that we're going to succeed.
Yeah.
I'm just fucking relentless, so we probably will, and the rest
Yeah.
of the team is also fucking relentless, so we probably will, and the community is really, really freaking relentless, so we probably will. But it's not a foregone conclusion, right?
Yeah.
Like, we need to do really, really intense work to have a chance. But it's such a privilege, and I'm so freaking grateful for the fact that we've been afforded this chance, because now we just get to go prove it. And so, yeah, this is why I don't sleep anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it is like a proving, that's where we're at. We're at the point where we need to prove ourselves, right? Like
100%.
it does feel like a little bit of a clean slate, but you're starting with like an awesome foundation.
Right, exactly. It's not like we're starting with nothing. I mean, we're starting with no money.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Which is it's a challenge. It's a thing. We've got a burn rate, and we need to. But we've got a decent plan to do that, and the demos kind of prove it, right? Like, before, we were showing people what we could do. The NFTs didn't even work yet when we sold Genesis, right? And obviously, that worked out. Now we're showing people what's possible, right? And yes, we've got things on our roadmap that are coming out this year, yada yada yada. But already, like, it's a pretty profound experience.
Yeah, I don't think I would have done it if I didn't have, something like that similar, right? Like, there's these unreleased things that you think could fundamentally change, how the project is perceived, how it works, get it just going again. And I mean, I feel the same way. I mean, I felt like for forever, like both the the play to earn aspect, the focus on free to play, making it easy, to get people in, like things like that. Adding more progression, like, so focusing more on like having to have somebody level before they could just equip any NFT that they just buy off the marketplace. Like, so just kind of adding, or kind of, putting in gameplay to the mechanic, like into the world, is important. But the incentivization, like creating great incentivization programs that actually work and benefit like everybody, like so that everybody's on the same page. I think the DAO is a fast way to kind of get that going. I think you're going to see a ton of luck with that. Not even luck. I think it's just bound to work. I think the community is going to come up with a lot of ideas. I mean, obviously, some of them aren't great ideas, and some of them are obviously pretty self. They're to improve themselves. But
we're going to be learning too, right? And I think one of the areas where people will have to come to terms with, like, good ideas. And I say this all the time. There's nothing bad against anyone having ideas. Ideas are amazing. But the way I think about ideas is that they are pure fucking uncut dog shit, right? Execution is everything, and execution is hard. right? Execution is what, the vast majority of people will never do, right? So that's where the rubber meets the road. And again, not people should always have good ideas. Please have tons of ideas. But now in the DAO, you want to make a proposal. You can't just go, hey, wouldn't it be cool if, we had proximity audio? Cool. Go find out if it's feasible. That's not simple, right?
Yep.
And so that idea then needs to get analyzed. And then you need to figure out, how you do that in a server that is really not very, the throughput on a Minecraft server is a pain in the ass, right? It's a huge expense for us. So figuring that out, and then figuring out dev time and putting cost on dev time, and then prioritizing that based on our value set, whether it's focusing on usability or features for new users, or how quickly we can get to revenue share, right? Like I think the people that are spending the most time with our DAO are going to quickly get educated on all the things that the core team has been having to run as a filter through the whole time, right?
Yep.
And I think that's really, really valuable, because we're going to be like obnoxiously transparent with our entire budget, with where all that stuff goes, why we think it should be going there, and because we're going to have to justify everything that we do as well. And so it's sort of for the people that want to get engaged, it's not only is it going to be like DAO training for all of us, right? Like this will be the biggest DAO experience I've ever had, right?
Yep.
Like where we sort of co-create this experience and try to leverage all the superpowers that are in it, and there are. But figuring out, like, everybody's going to own a piece of a startup. Like, that's really what's going on, right? Like, you own a piece of a startup. Here's the challenges. Here's the intense opportunity. And just, like, how do you make the rubber hit the road hard enough to make, ideas come true? And I'm super freaking stoked for like, as people start to make proposals and get the 15% that you need to actually get it to a full vote and shepherd that thing through the DAO, and then see something that you thought of become real in the Uplift DAO is going to be, I think, a really rewarding experience.
Yeah, I like the filter thing, right? Like if they have more information, they can kind of like better target what the proposal is. Like a lot of people could just throw out random ideas, but if they know the
Right.
circumstances that they're trying to create an idea for, or create a solution to a problem that you might have, having that communicated to them and having that information to make a much better idea that is not only just an idea but is feasible within the budget, is something that you can actually act upon in a meaningful time frame, obviously, right? Like it
Right.
can't be something that's lingering for 2 years, but having them aware of that kind of stuff, I can see that speeding it up. And yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, I could see it, right? Like, hey, I could say, yeah, we just don't have a developer right now, so let's start thinking. But what we do have is access to making smart contracts and
Mm-hmm.
getting things going with the token side of things, and how can we change the things that we already have related to those to make it better. And then all the ideas and the solutions kind of come through there. Then they start, it starts as an idea, then it becomes like a graphic or a document or something that's a little bit more tangible, that we could take to somebody and be like, hey, can this actually happen? Is this like
Right.
possible? And then once we know if it's possible, if it can be done, then we can actually implement it and get it developed and act upon it, as long as it meets all other business objectives. But
Right.
yeah, yep, I can see that. Yeah, I almost want to just go full Dow, but no.
Well,
I mean, I
like,
want to watch. I like
right,
to watch
exactly.
people go
Watch,
first.
watch us first. Like, maybe we face plant. Who fucking knows? And it's not like, I don't think we will, for the record. But like
Yeah,
I mean, we're gonna have challenges, and we sort of see some of those challenges. There's probably challenges we don't see, right? And we'll solve those too. But yeah, I'm hoping the same thing. And I think, especially considering where you are right now, it makes so much more sense to be a little bit nimble. It's not like you're not going to be reacting to the community or polling them for directions forward. Clearly, you've already been doing that. You're going to be doing that anyway, right?
yeah,
And if we can be an example, and learn a bunch of the lessons, and then help other people and other projects do the same thing, like that, great, right? Like that 100% is something that I'm excited to see over the next year or two.
yeah. I mean, it's hard not to be paying attention to how other projects are doing things,
Of
and being
course.
able to kind of see. That's the other thing. Like I just feel like the wax space a lot of the time demonizes it a lot.
How do you mean?
People. Yeah, I just feel like a lot of the times, like, people will kind of hold you to, like, just like a failure, like a little bit too hard. Like they're not realizing that failure is an opportunity for, like, the space to get better in a way. Not saying you particular, I'm just saying projects in general across the wax space. I mean, I just feel like, there's these little groups that just kind of come up and just like, oh, this is a trash project because yada yada yada. They, everything kind of failed, and and then you're just kind of viewed as this bad person all of a sudden. But I mean, I don't view any project on wax as a bad project unless they like literally scam people.
Yeah.
Like as long as they're still around and working, like I think the term rug pull is getting used too
Dude,
loosely. Originally it was metaverse, but you know what? Rug pull is getting used way too
oh my
loosely.
God. Like I had this one clown, I finally blocked him. He's like, oh man, rug pull core. I'm like, dude, I'm working on every project I've ever been a part of.
Yeah.
Like today. Like,
Yeah.
do you understand what the word rug pull means? Right? Like, I don't think you do.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It just, yeah. I mean, the thing is how else are you going to figure out how things work without trying it? I just don't understand it. Like, are you just supposed to magically know that, oh, this is the perfect way to do things? All of a sudden somebody has a
Yeah.
magic formula for this space? No, I don't think anybody has a magic formula, but I do think there's people who've tried enough things, or have, we've been able to actually, thankfully see other people try other things that didn't work or did work, and then be able
Yeah.
to incorporate that into our,
Right.
our situation.
Yeah, we have to learn from each other. I mean,
Yeah.
that's an obvious thing for me, right?
Yeah.
Again, like in startup land, and I know I say this on the show all the time. Some people are going to get really bored of this, but make sure you tell everyone who comes into the space. We have been afforded the opportunity for the first time to start investing in startups, right? That was illegal for us in the West until very recently, right?
Yep.
Like you needed $250,000 liquid to be able to talk to a startup, right? We weren't allowed to be the first round of Twitter. We weren't allowed to be the first round of Facebook. We're allowed now.
Yeah.
But here's what everyone needs to understand. Out of 50 projects that start up, 49 of them are going to fucking fail. Right? Like, 50 projects, 49 of them will fail. Because this is fucking hard.
Yeah.
Right? And so if you're in a project and it fails, like, dude, now granted, if you're in a project and they, sell out and they delete the Discord, yeah, you got rugged.
Yeah, that's a rug pull, right? To me, that's
right.
a rug pull.
There are scams. It's a real pain in the ass. But if you see
Yes,
people that are like genuinely trying, and they might be failing at that moment, I
just
think
don't demonize the salesmanship too. That's the other part. I don't get it. Like, I think there's a demonization of the salesmanship of a project. Like, somebody should be able to be a spokesperson, be passionate
Right.
about what they're working on, be able to, sell a vision, right?
Right.
There's
100%.
not somebody being able to,
Dude,
create a community.
This might
be
this might be too soon, but like Bonds pushed fucking Luna hard.
Yeah.
And I love him to death, and I don't envy his position. But like, I almost got into fucking Luna with.
I almost did too, because
dude,
the finnies, like the Finny guys went over
the
there.
whole 9 yards, right?
Everybody was going over there.
And I was telling Jimmy was over there and took a huge hit, but like it was not irresponsible to think that was a really amazing project.
Yeah.
Right. Really amazing projects can have exposure. Now, don't get me wrong, like the arrogant fucking Do Kwon, whatever the fuck, right? Like, I mean that's super lame or whatever, and maybe a bit of a hint and a lesson for us moving forward. But again, like monster projects can get nuked. Yeah. Because of vulnerabilities that some or most people didn't see coming or whatever, right? Like that. But that's the price that we have to pay, and we have to be willing to pay with grace, I hope.
Yep.
For the ability to come in and be part of things that can 1000x. And I know like everybody watching this show, you guys are already on that thing, but I think it's an education thing that we need to give to everybody else, right? The projects that are in this space that are trying this kind of stuff, again, it's like not easy at all. And I want to personally give projects the right to fail. So because if we don't cultivate that as a value, then no one's going to try hard shit. They're only going to do stuff that they saw Farmers World do. And that's a race to the bottom. That will not work, right? Over time.
I mean, why do you see so many of the repeat projects just keep popping up? You think that's the reason why? Like, the reason that we're repeating it is because you keep buying it, because you're not demonizing that rug pull, right? Like, you're demonizing the people that are actually still in the space, like for 2 years, still working on the same project. It's just so backwards. It's
a shiny new thing, right? Well, and this is the thing, like the games are going through the same kind of hype arc as the ICOs did, right?
Yeah.
And that's I think as a collection of people that are new to the investing space, which is kind of the crypto community or NFT community writ large, right? We're learning those lessons, and that those lessons are counter to basic human nature, right? There's a reason why people buy high and sell low. It's it's an encoded monkey thing that we have to fight in our own psyches to get to a point where we can win, and that's the challenging thing, right? So if you see a hype thing, and whether it's in a token, or in a project, that number go up is a huge thing, right? And then you see projects like us that are grinding it out, right? And I think the right people are realizing what's going to happen, but it's all too easy for people that are totally new into the space. Well, that's not new, right? And if it's not new, you can't like sort of imagine filling in the blanks for it so that it's a white paper that people are going to buy for $1 billion or whatever, right? And because it's just we've already done too many things, it's right. So it's not like it's just so easy to go to the other shiny project. I guess it's like the TLDR,
that makes sense.
Right?
I remember there was like a tweet or something. It's just like an NFT project with just a website's worth like $3 billion, right? An NFT website that has like an actual game and a login system's worth like $1 billion. Like an actual metaverse is worth like $250,000. It's just like the more you do, the farther you get into it, it does become, oddly enough, less shiny, and maybe it is because, you think that because there's something there, there's not much more to come. But
on the same token, I think we need to learn, like you and I specifically need to learn the lessons about why those other things work, right? Because like that number go up cents, right? Like the acing that to the point where we can responsibly use that power, right? Tuttle and I talk about this all the time because like we've had over the course of the last year many times where we have done things specifically to spite the speculators. Right, because they'll come into your Telegram and start acting like they fucking own you, and that's for like they're gonna find out that I'm a brick wall and they're just gonna smash into it. Like that's not how any of this works, right? That's not a place that I'm gonna come and work every day, right? We just won't. But at the same time, like creating that level of excitement. I mean, for me, that's what we're doing now, right? I mean, to figure out how to get into a whole other ecosystem that's doing more in NFT sales than all the other blockchains combined by 5x. Right. At a certain point, as much as I've been shitting on Ethereum for a year and a half, I can admit when I'm wrong. That whatever they're doing is working better than what we're doing on Wax. Like I'll say that again. Whatever they're doing is working better than what we're doing on Wax. The numbers cannot lie. Right now, a lot of that's hype. A lot of it's hype. Right. A lot of it is an understanding of how these NFTs are intersecting with community and celebrity and just all this crazy shit. Right. But it's stuff we need to learn, and we are right. We're just going to go and connect with 100 awesome projects and bring them over, but then connect them to metaverse in a way that I personally have never seen before. Like that, I think is the juice, right? So anyway, when are you guys going multi-chain?
I mean, we could already import NFTs from different chains. It's just our wallet setup system is a little different in the fact that you could put anybody's wallet address and verify the assets right now. So until we get you actually, I think until we change the login system to the point where you have to link the wallet to an overarching email account or something like that to verify ownership, I think it'll be difficult. But it's there, so you can. There's already like one or two NFTs that are in the world that are from a different blockchain that as long as they have their wallet in there, it'll verify it, and then you can place it out. So
which one?
So well, they're all like test NFTs.
Got it. Okay. Which blockchain?
So it's Ethereum and it's actually there's 6 other ones. So it's Ethereum, Polygon, Flow.
Oh, so basically like
Telos.
all the L2s.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yep.
Awesome.
So we can bring them in, but I mean it's not as crazy as it sounds, right? It's pretty easy to ping these APIs to verify wallet ownership. Yeah.
Like from a technical perspective, I mean, don't undersell yourself because you're rad as fuck. Right. But on the flip side, like I think and again, this is just something that I'm sort of like super dialed in on right now. But like having the ability to bring NFTs in from all of these other places and connect them, like what people still do not understand about how amazing this is going to be for the uplifts this year is that all those projects still don't understand they're going to be able to walk from Ethereum to gratitude.
Yeah.
Right. Like they're already going to be in a very real sense and an important historic sense, in my clearly unhumble opinion, they're going to be connected to these other chains in a way that like you're going to be rubbing shoulders. You're not going to be in different places anymore. You're going to be in the same place. You're
Yep.
just going to be in a different town.
Yeah, I mean, that was what we had to do is we had to put like the little logos where the NFTs were just so you knew what chain they were on. But
Yeah.
when you spawned them out into the world, I mean, they were the same exact thing, right? Like you can never tell the difference between an Ethereum versus a Wax NFT or a Flow versus Polygon, right? Like they all looked the same. So the world was all still pretty seamless. But if you looked at it and inspected it and got the metadata from that asset, you'd realize it was on a different chain or,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I think
I
the cross
think
chain is
that's where
big.
it's going, right? Because we're gonna
Yeah.
do all this cross chain stuff, and at a certain point, I think it's gonna disappear. I
Yep.
really do. And I don't think that's soon. I think that's like probably 3 to 5 years, away. But a user that comes in 5 years will almost certainly have no clue what blockchain they're on, and they won't care.
Yeah.
It's just not gonna matter.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like the different intranets that got connected back in the day, right? Like storage in the early internet, and the way that the data percolated throughout the entire thing. Like it was very segmented, and the costs were segmented, and people were throwing different spaghetti at the wall. Now nobody has any clue that ever happened. Like it's just internet now, right?
Yep.
Like we don't even pay attention to that being real. It's just like it's how the magic fucking rectangles work.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing. Like it's not like, are you a metaverse? It's like, how metaverse are you? Right. And
Mm,
I like how, when you kind of Google what a metaverse is, there's layers to it, right? Like there's like a decentralization is just a little sliver of it, right? Like there's the whole gaming and entertainment and shopping and discovery and brand, like discovery and creator economy aspects, and like even like the AR, VR, like head mounted device stuff. So like the metaverse is always kind of growing, and I think utilizing the like how you utilize the decentralization is how you go forward. Like you need to be able to be on all the chains, right? You need to be able
yep.
to like that's just a part, that's just like a sliver of it, right? Like going all in on the decentralization side of it, you're missing the other parts of the metaverse, right? Like you're kind of super niche at some point. Like I think that's where it gets to it like 5 years from now. It's like, what's the usable application that has decentralization like as a part of it, right? Like
Hmm.
it's not so much like what's the DApp that I want to be on, right? Like I don't think it ever gets to a point where the full DApp is what you're utilizing, right? You're using you're maybe using like a website, which is still Amazon or wherever you're getting your hosting from, right? But like I mean, maybe it continues that way. Like maybe there's a decentralized headset that comes out, right? Like
Yeah.
that's not owned by Facebook, right? But until that's the case, I mean, you're gonna have to kind of deal with the VR headset being owned by Meta, right? Like that's just kind of
Well,
how
that's
you.
there. Yeah, he's just learning from Apple at that point, right? Like
Yeah.
it's considering the capture. I mean, there's more people using Facebook than on any country, right? Like
Yeah.
it's absolutely absurd. Like if it was a nation, it's the largest nation by a lot.
Yeah.
And so when you have that amount of capture, I mean, like it's just they almost get you're on rails. Like there's no way you're not going to have a centralized system for that, because like there's literally no upside for you not to be in that situation
Yep.
yet. Maybe that's a
Yeah.
different case, right? But I think where the upstarts are going to come behind that is, I wonder too, like the more I start learning about how these smart contracts work, and that even for BluDAC as an example, like anyone can hit those smart contracts
Yep.
right now. Like that's how the guest pools work or whatever, right? The
Yep.
community pools.
Yep.
So when do we start seeing websites that are aggregating open protocol smart contracts, right? And just
True.
using
Yep.
those and having fun with those. It's gonna be interesting. Anyway, listen, Dan, you're just gonna need to come on more regularly, because freaking love you, number one, and number two, I got 2 minutes before my next meeting. Monday is nuts. I like
Yeah. Yeah. No, appreciate
but
you
I
having
mean,
me on, and
grateful for
yeah,
it for sure.
keep
Yeah,
building. And
hundred
I know
percent.
it's week one, so you made it through week one. So week two, you got to push through it.
Right
And
now, yeah. How do
I'm
we
excited.
like? I think it's funny. Like we added Bitcoin. Madam was
Yeah.
the show before
Yeah, I
this
was
one.
watching earlier. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like I didn't even know she had stuff on Ethereum. So like now, okay, that's one. I feel like we added I think 12 or 13 the first week. Like I'll just add 20 this week and
Yeah.
rock and
Cool.
roll.
Tons of
Anyway,
entertainment. I guess is the next one a live stream too?
I don't think so. I think it's actually a
Oh,
team
this
meeting.
is
We usually
actually
do
okay.
We do
Cool.
usually do team meetings around 11 Eastern Standard Time, but yeah,
Makes sense.
Yippers. All right, thanks,
All
Dan.
right. Yep. Thanks, everybody.
All right, give me a chop.
Oh, what?
Chop.